Jose Miguel. Thanks so much for joining us today. Wanted to kind of talk to you a little bit about HR's role when it comes to leave management and what you've noticed as a customer success manager when it comes to HR folks who maybe are in smaller organizations or larger organizations, and what the different dynamics are at play for like someone in HR who might be working for a larger company.
Well, thank you first of all for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Really excited for this conversation as well. I know this is something that for customers who are always looking for a vendor, things that are top of mind for them, getting to know and understand how a product and a software that is tech, right? Because that's who we are, but also how is it human centric? And I think that matters a lot, specifically for smaller customers who are like the one person dream team, that are the HR manager, that's the practitioner of all things. I have a HR background that I spent 4.5 years working in human resources by accident. I say that because I went in with the intention of being a talent manager and a recruiter for an institution and left there being an HR business partner and without really knowing what an HR business partner was or did. So when you wear all those hats as an HR person, you sometimes have to really dig deep as to defining what tools can I use to make myself be more efficient, and how is this going to support the greater good of what I'm trying to achieve as a goal and as an outcome. So when I think about blending my past experience from HR, blending my experience as a customer success manager, and then the product that is Tilt, it comes down to two really important pieces. One is employee experience. How is this going to provide our employees, our customer, who is defined by the HR person as their employee, a positive experience when they're going on leave? And number two, is this going to save me time? Is it going to save me money? Those are the two biggest contributing factors as to one, why customers come to Tilt, but two, the ability for a person that is that one person dream team with limited resources and bandwidth and understanding how a product can support them. What I've seen from my experience just in the time that I've been at Tilt is that a lot of those customers will integrate with Tilt, will either use the Ripley integration or find a way to connect their HIRS system to Tilt, and then engage with their employees about the process for leave and let Tilt do the rest because they don't simply have the bandwidth to do it. And when it comes to a product and a tool, Tilt does that for you. I think what I take pride and joy and what really caught my eye about Tilt was the fact that we have empathy warriors. The fact that, yes, we're a tech company, but we're human centric. And I said that before in the beginning. It's the fact that, like, when an employee comes to say, I'm going on leave, there's a person behind that screen who's actually going to walk you step by step through your leave process. And not just before you go on leave, but from the time that you actually enter your leave process, making sure all your documentation that you need, whether you're in a state that requires you to actually submit claims for state benefits, or it's just your employer short-term disability benefit. Tilt will support you in understanding how to do that. Then when you go on leave, sending you reminders that certain things are required for deadlines, making sure that you file your paperwork with the state so that it's not late and you can get paid. And still back prior to your return, reminding you, hey, connect with your HR team or connect with your benefits person to get a sense of what you should be doing to prepare for your return to work. Those are such critical foundations for building a strong partnership, but knowing that there's a human you can reach out to, which is such a pivotal piece around leave and why leave sucks, right? Because for so many reasons, we're here to make it not suck. Let's give it some love. We have these individuals behind that screen that are always there to support and leading with the employees. From an HR perspective, and if we can achieve that win, which we do with our customers, they're halfway there. They're at probably 75% by that time. The other 25% comes down to, am I going to be compliant? How is this going to save me money? How is this going to be something that I can year after year ensure that with my limited budget, that my CHRO or whoever you report to from a leadership perspective is going to say, yes, Tilt has provided us with a value proposition that we can defend and include this in our budget. Compliance, cost savings, and time savings. That HR person has other projects they can go do and not have to worry about how to complete paperwork or documentation about what a state regulation is, and ensuring that if they have employees in multiple states, that all those states' regulations are being managed. That's a win. That's a huge thing for many customers, especially smaller ones, because they don't know all the legalities across all the states that have leave laws. Not to mention when it comes to appropriately denying and approving FMLA, that's a tricky one for so many customers. In addition to the ADA process, we don't approve the ADA process. That's obviously for an employer to decide. But helping an employer who perhaps has never done it before, it could be tricky. So we're there to provide them with the knowledge, the expertise, and the ability to feel comfortable in knowing that you have a trusted partner that's going to support you every step of the journey.
Yeah, what you're describing really is sounding like truly Tilt as a solution is an extension of your team. Like, we are a trusted partner. We go as far as partnering with you on helping you, make these decisions for your business, or, making sure you're staying compliant. Like, you can count on us to be as dedicated to this as if we were an employee, which is really cool. You touched on, kind of a smaller business, talking about, that one person dream team. What would you say to an organization who has 8 people on their HR team? Where does a leave solution add value to that team?
Immensely. I mean, there's so many ways that it fits in across the board when you look at the market of what a customer is defined by, right? Especially when you're a company who is looking at how do you provide solutions to customers in different ways. If you have that 8-person team, what a dream to have it, right? If you do have it, that usually is made up of a person that potentially does benefits. So someone on your team that's going through the orientation process with new hires and onboarding, but also every year when it comes to enrollment time, has the ability to negotiate cost for those benefit providers that provide their employees those actual health benefits, short-term disability, life insurance, HSA, FSA, all of the different things that are options that a company might provide them. Then you probably have maybe multiple people that work in a payroll department that fall under the HR umbrella, maybe an HRIS person, someone that manages your HR software. And then maybe perhaps you have a couple of HR business partners, people that are teams that are overseeing how departments are being managed and providing support, whether it's in analysis of review, analysis of demographic information, ensuring that there's DEI in the process for hiring, all those different things. All of those individuals typically at some point or another have their hands in the Tilt product. And here's how. Your payroll person is going to play a really key role in understanding when a leave happens and what they need to know about assuring that those pay calculations, when Tilt is managing the leave, are matching your payroll. They play a really big role in making sure that if your system, your HRS system, is not integrated with Tilt, meaning it's not Rippling or it's not one of other API integrations, that they're reviewing those pay calculations to understand why an employee was paid a certain way because of how we go off of our numbers from an explanation of benefits, while also reviewing their calculations from a payroll schedule or payroll period to making sure employees are paid. From an HR business partner perspective, that person's working with the employee's manager while they're on leave. Most HR managers or managers, so to speak, don't often have time to go and figure out what's going on. And if you have that team that's really there to support, having that interaction to say, hey, so-and-so went on leave. However, they have an extension on their leave that was added for an additional 2 weeks. Wanted to give you a heads up on what's going on with that. We met with our provider and they shared us some more information. Here's when they're returning. Great and easy for that person or that manager to interact with it. From the benefits person, they're probably going to look at all of the policies that they have for their employees that Tilt would probably manage. Well, that's a medical leave, a parental leave, a short-term disability leave, or a long-term disability leave, or a caregiver leave. Those are the different ones that we would work with that benefits person to ensure that all of that information is updated in Tilt on a regular basis. My rule of thumb lately has been checking in with partners at least twice a year. So that way, when open enrollment time comes along, we're not waiting till the 11th hour to update that for them in Tilt, and ensuring that those benefits are updated for their employees when it comes to the new year. So you have so many people that if you have that team that is a little bit bigger and more robust, that can play an active role in participating in the product and ensuring that their employees are supported. Now, I have partners that are that size, and some of them only engage with us maybe once a quarter. Some of them engage with us in bi-monthly or bi-weekly calls. And some of them don't ever engage with us at all because their employees know where to go because they know what Tilt does, and their employee experience has been positive and rewarding. So it's a mirage, I should say, or maybe like a huge way of opportunities where, regardless of the size of your institution or your company or your business, that Tilt has the opportunity to provide you with a service that connects with your employees, but also, I would say, perhaps a la carte, right? You get the whole package of what the tech does and a person connected to it to help support your employees, and sometimes more than one person, depending on how the size of your company or size of your employee workforce. But you may use all the features, just know that they're there for you when you need them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you touched on just how varied organizations are when it comes to their HR structure, how leave can impact so many different folks within an HR group. Obviously, if it's a HR group of one, they're gonna interact with Tilt in a different way. But the fact that it can really be uh, it allows HR folks to be as hands-on as they want to be or as they need to be. Tilt can either handle all of it, or they can work with you as a partner hand in hand. And I think that uh, really goes to show that leave is the way leave is managed is almost as unique as the individuals taking a leave. And on that front, when you have a larger organization, let's say, and there's a bunch of moving parts and you have different folks involved, uh, can you speak a little bit to how Tilt handles like large volumes of leave? Because leaves are unpredictable, as we know, right? You never really know, like, are we going to have one? Are we going to have 10 or 20, or who knows how many at a given time? Your role as a customer success manager and Tilt's role as the leave platform, how can that address that kind of scenario?
Yeah, I think what works well is having really clean and engaging communication to being able to support what the customer needs is. Sometimes you have to pivot from what you have been doing because it worked for one customer in a specific way, but it doesn't work with the other customer in that same way. So listening to your customer and understanding what they're needing to making sure they feel supported. I've had customers who, and these are the ones that would, for example, we meet biweekly or bi-monthly, however you want to call it. And there are probably about 4 or 5 HR business partners that are responsible for all of their, let's say, departments or units in which they review the leaves with. So we'll jump on these calls. You'll have myself as the customer success manager kind of hosting the conversation, really there to support, but really the conversation's being managed between the leave success manager, who is managing the leaves for the organization, but working hand in hand with those employees. So you have customers, for this instance, well, they'll say, well, so and so is happening. This is the paperwork we got. Did you get the same thing? And so that dialogue is important because it allows one, the leave success manager, to understand what information their customers getting from the employee, but also for us as the middle person, the leave manager, the leave holders or keepers, we're now supporting them to making sure that they trust the information we're sharing about the employee's leave. So that relationship is so important. It's important for us as customer success managers to understand what are the pain points through that process for a customer. If in that relationship or that communication or conversation, something's not jiving, what's missing there? What can we do? So really being in discovery mode and always asking questions that help engage in the conversation. finding opportunities where we can add that extra layer of service or support where they may see that there's a gap but not know what the gap is. So it really helps us. And just even if we're not in the conversation speaking, but we're there kind of in the background, listening to really understand what that customer needs before they may even think about asking or saying that they need it. And oftentimes that's not the case. This particular customer we've been working with for a long time, and they know us just as much as we know them. But knowing that foundation and having that foundation built with that customer, you can duplicate that for others, especially with customers who are just coming on board from using another product that perhaps was similar to Tilt, perhaps a competitor, but really didn't have the best experience and decided to come with us because they heard that Tilt was great. A lot of that comes down to the fact that we have such strong relationships with the customers that we're supporting, but also that there's a human. That I can't emphasize that enough. That human connection, that human interaction really is the key to why we have so many customers that come to work with us. And there are ones where I have to be honest, it's challenging in the beginning. They may come to us with, let's say, 15, 20, 30 in-flight leaves that make that beginning stages of the relationship a little hard. Sometimes, a customer will come because they have used another product but didn't trust the other product, wholeheartedly, and still kept their little handy dandy Excel sheet to track their leaves. And they're only coming to us with that Excel sheet. And, for our IGs, our implementation guides that are kind of in the weeds with implementing customers, I give them so much love and support because they're having to review all this information, define what's within compliance, define what's not in compliance, and assuring that before we actually fully take on that, in-flight leave, that we get it to the place where it can be serviced by Tilt, but also helping the customer feel comfortable in saying, hey, we've noticed that with these leaves that you're wanting us to manage, that this is not correct. They're not being managed accurately. So we have to also be aware of how do we push back to help the customer understand that we're experts in this space and we're here to make sure that you're in compliance so that you don't have any issues with your employees' leave. Those 15, 20 in-flight leaves can take a long time to get them where they are. So you have to build that foundation of trust, helping the customer understand what steps we're taking. Perhaps it's creating an actionable approach of how many times you're going to meet before they go live. And through that implementation process, maybe sometimes looping in that customer success manager so that you can work with the actual HR person or the benefits person so that they feel more confident in the process. It's an evolution of really being able to make the experience that a customer or an employee may have had previously not suck when they come to us. And if it did suck coming from someplace else, we hear you. It's everyone has some form of a trauma. Let's unpack that a little bit and help you get through that place and ensuring that you have a positive experience working with us here on out.